Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Marche, the webinar director at Advice Chaser. Before we introduce our guest and get started, I do need to do a bit of legal housekeeping. Advice Chaser, the host of this webinar, is not a registered investment advisor. We cannot and do not give financial advice. Today's presentation is for educational purposes only and cannot be considered advice for any person's individual situation. Advice Chaser regularly hosts informative webinars such as these, featuring a variety of knowledgeable professionals, many of whom are licensed advisors. Any opinions, ideas, jokes, or principles expressed by presenters are their own, and however true, funny, or interesting, are not endorsed by Advice Chaser. Please do not act on the information you hear today without consulting a qualified financial professional. Well, we're thrilled to bring you this educational presentation today. Attendees are on mute, but we do ask you, if you have any questions, to go ahead and use the chat. And if we don't have a chance to get to your question during our presentation today, go ahead and leave your phone number as well. We will make sure someone reaches out to you as soon as possible after today's event. We want this experience to be as educational as possible. Please don't hesitate to ask for clarification or expansion of the material. We have a really great presenter today, so we invite your questions. So I'd love to introduce you to today's presenter. I'll pop his picture up here. Glenn Shellhammer is the founder of Shellhammer Real Estate Group and is ranked among the top 5% of real estate brokers in the U.S., showcased in business publications and seen on Bravo TV's $1 Million Listing Los Angeles. With a family real estate business spanning over 20 years in representing buyers and sellers, Glenn is committed to maintaining the highest standards of integrity, confidentiality, and professionalism. Glenn specializes in unique properties in the northeast side of the Los Angeles area in California. We're so glad to have you here, Glenn, and I'm going to go ahead and let you take it away here.
Hey everybody. Thanks so much for having me. I'm thrilled to be here today and excited to talk about selling and buying real estate at the same time. Add an extra layer in this market that we're experiencing. It's emotions are high, and this is what, in my opinion, separates an average agent from a seasoned professional. But before I get too far ahead of myself, a little bit more about me. So I am a real estate broker. I manage a small team of agents. There's 6 of us in total. The way that we work is my agent partners set up property tours, open doors, and help identify the right properties on the buying side. And then I come in and we figure out how it is that we're going to get done what it is that we want to do. And then on the listing side, I'll work with my sellers and we'll figure out what the plan is, right? The plan of what it is that they want to do to get to wherever it is that they want to go. So plan is a big part of what we do. Plan, right? So it's very important when there's multiple transactions happening at the same time with selling and buying, a plan. But you always want to have a plan. You always want to have a roadmap. First thing you want to do is put the right team together. So you're going to want to have a good mortgage broker. You're going to want to have or a loan officer if you prefer to work with somebody at a bank or a direct lender. And then you want to work with the right real estate team, either working directly with the broker or working with an agent, right? It's important to put the team together first and foremost. And the team is going to be there to support you through every step of the transaction on either side, right? So I'm going to just look at my slides now because I have a difficult time thinking about what I'm saying and then reading at the same time. So if you could humor me, let's see here. Where am I? So we talked about the mortgage broker. We talked about working with a great real estate agent. And then that's it. They're going to help you move through the transaction. But if we're talking about selling, first and where are we going to go? This brings up a lot of fears. When sellers call me over the house to talk about moving, there's a lot of fear. Usually there's a lot of uncertainty of what's happening, regardless of the market, regardless if we're in a pandemic. And they want to figure out, what they're going to do next. And it's like walking into a room. If you don't have the light on, you don't really see what's going on. We certainly don't know if there's monsters under the bed unless we look. So we put the plan together first. So I say, okay, cool, great. Why am I here? What are we doing? What do you guys really want to accomplish? So if it's selling and then buying at the same time, there's a few different ways to go about doing that, right? One, either you can stay in the property while we're selling the property, or we may want to do some improvements to the property and you may want to get out and give us some time to get the property ready to showcase it a bit of a different way, right? Maybe there's some missed opportunities in the home, maybe a coat of paint, changing some fixtures and fittings and lights. Maybe that would go a long way. Every property is case specific, but I usually have some ideas up my sleeve if I'm wearing long sleeves on how to earn you some more money. And that's what it's all really about, right? I mean, what are we really doing here? This is about selling an asset of yours and walking away with as much money as you can, right? We don't want to leave any money on the table. So with that in mind, again, what's the plan, Glenn? Like, how can we make sure that we don't leave any money on the table? And at the same time, we got to worry about where we're going to go next.
Can we backtrack a little bit and talk about, you talked about finding the right team. Can you talk a little bit about the kind of the qualifications to find the right people?
Oh, sure. Okay. Yeah. Sorry about that. If you're not one of the lucky ones that, just happens to know me, I'm just kidding. Just teasing. So you're going to want to, we're in the information age, right? So you can go onto Google, you can go onto Yelp, start looking at reviews that other people have left. You can ask your friends or family for referrals, and you're going to want to maybe talk to 2 or 3 different people, both on the lending side and on, now you're gonna have to humor me, folks. At the beginning of the pandemic, I moved into my home office, which I love dearly, and I'm not leaving because I've gotten so used to it. But at the same time, we got to deal with the gardeners sometime. And they just happen to have come at the time that we're doing this. So if you hear the blowers, they're making my backyard look fabulous.
All right. Thank you for the explanation.
Okay, cool. So qualifications. You're going to want to, there's quite a few people out there that are smart and savvy and that do their job well. You're going to want to find one of those people, and then you're going to want to find someone that you can really resonate with and that you like the way that they communicate. And, this is kind of a big deal, right? So you want to put your team together. You want to find a great lender that can work really well with the real estate advisor. And these people are really your cheerleaders. And we want to make sure that we have a clear line of communication. So it's very important that you have that. Now, along with that come, what are the value adds of the agent, for instance? It's the relationship with the stagers. It's the relationship with the general contractors, the handyman, the skilled laborers. Me, for instance, when I come into a home, I like to consider it like a one-stop shop, as corny and as cliche as that sounds. But, if you need a CPA, if you need a new attorney to create a trust, if you need a gardener, if you need help picking the palette for the paint colors, this is the dance floor I dance on. This is what I do 7 days a week. And, so a talented agent broker is going to be able to help in a lot of different ways of just putting the entire plan together for you. And I keep going back to that because it's very important that you have a plan. Yeah. So sell first, then buy next. You may need to find temporary housing while you list and sell your home. Yes. So my clients will say, but Glenn, how much is that going to cost? And, does it really make sense for us to do that? Yes, it does. And we can just look at it on paper. We can kind of look at homes that are staged, what the value is that the market finds in that. right? Versus a home that is occupied. And we see the trend, and we see that homes that are vacant and are staged and are positioned correctly, they sell for more money. Depending on the region and the neighborhood, it varies, right, of how much more money, but it's always more. So it's important that if we can figure out a way for you to get out of the house, even if that's just cousins, aunts, uncles, Airbnb, if we can figure that out, let's do it. Let's see, frees you up to sell your home without having to live there in a tight housing market, maybe temporary housing for longer. That's a question I get too, is Glenn, but how long? How long are we going to be in this temporary housing? Well, hold on. I do have my crystal ball. I just forgot it in the living room. Let me go grab that. I'll be right back. I don't know. I can't tell you. What I can tell you is this, is that I have a proven track record of helping people get to where they want to be in a timely fashion. What does that mean? That means that I've made all the mistakes. I know where the trapdoors are. And you need to work with somebody that also knows where all the trapdoors are. There's a formula that if you position your home to sell correctly, and if you set a marketing plan up correctly, you should be in escrow in X amount of time, which means that there's going to be specific parameters around the agreement, and you're going to know when the contingencies are going to be removed. So then you can turn around and start looking for the replacement home. And then we can figure out how long that process would be in that escrow. So for me to say to you, it's going to be about 3 months that you're going to need temporary housing, sounds practical. So 3 months is pretty much it. But Glenn, what if it's going to be longer? It may be a bit longer. But again, if you're working with a professional team that knows what they're doing and has a clear line of communication with you every step of the way, it shouldn't take longer than 3 months.
That's good to know, especially in this housing market. And we're recording in 2021. So people who see this replay a little later, that's kind of the environment we're dealing with.
Renovating, staging, and selling. All right. Access the home for needed renovations, quick renovations, and then staging. Create the lifestyle and vibe. Make sure to get into escrow the first time. And how do we know what offer to accept? So all of that right there separates the rookie agents from the seasoned professionals. This is all part of the plan, right? How are we going to come to market? Do you have any money that you can invest in the property before we come to market? You know how you've always wanted to paint the fence? You know how you've always wanted to change the carpet out of that back bedroom? Now might be the time to do it. And if I can show you that it's going to cost you $1,000 to do something and I can earn you an extra $10,000 because of it, it might be a smart decision to do it now, right? And then you're going to have to go through the whole feelings of, man, I should have done this 10 years ago, but that's not my conversation with you. That's the therapist. I'm just kidding. With that being said, yeah, we put the plan together. We decide whether or not we're going to stage. We decide whether or not you're going to be there. Then we create the lifestyle and the energy that we need to ramp up the price. Wherever your property is, there's a specific buyer that's going to pay the most money for the home, whatever that is. We're going to create that environment for that specific buyer. We're going to get everybody excited. We're going to have an offer deadline. We're going to ramp up the price. We're going to find the right buyer. And mind you, if you position the home correctly, you're going to get more offers than we need. We're going to get offers that are real, some that are inflated. There's always 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 real buyers in the pile. Some of my listings get 50 offers on them. We're in a different market here in Los Angeles, but the same property may only get 3 offers if I don't position it correctly or if I don't do what we do, right? So there's that. It's all part of the plan of getting you into escrow the first time with the right buyer. Part of that is giving them the seller disclosure package. Part of that might be us doing pre-inspections along with staging. I may ask you to do a general inspection, maybe a sewer line video down to the city saddle. Maybe you're on a septic tank. Maybe you're on a raised foundation. Maybe you're on a slab. Maybe we have some structural problems that we want to look at. Maybe you're on a slope. We may want to look at the property condition and bundle all of our findings together and give them all to the buyers in the very beginning. That way, it's difficult for them to come back later on with their handout saying, hey, by the way, I didn't know about this other thing and I need a bit of a discount, because I'll tell you what, at that point, we're going to have to decide if you're going to make a concession to maybe lose some money, or are you going to cut off your nose to spite your face and put it back on the market? Because if we do that, the likelihood that we're going to get the same price or a higher price is slim to none. So all of this goes back to putting the plan together in the very beginning, knowing where the trap doors are, and making sure we don't leave any money on the table for you. That's what's up with that slide.
We do have a question. When you talk about a home that's staged sells for more, does that mean staged with items from a stager and not your things? Or do you, for example, you pack out and it's professionally staged? Or tell us a little bit about.
That's a really great question. Really great question. And here it is. There's no one answer for it. We have professional stagers that we work with regularly, but you know what I also do? I go to the Goodwill and I'll buy a mirror at the Goodwill for $12 that I'll spray paint and I'll put in a house, in a multi-million-dollar home that looks like incredible. So I've got rugs in my basement that I bring. I've got some incredible plants that are artificial just along the way that I've collected. So, it's a case by case situation. If you have the means to do things a certain way and it makes sense to do it, then we do it. If there's ways to cut corners, I always tell people I would never suggest putting $1 somewhere where you might just get the dollar back. There's no way. If there's a big win waiting for us, then that's something that I would totally consider doing.
Can you talk a little bit about the difference in price that you see when it's correctly staged?
Sure. And that's a really great question too. And that's going to be a regional probably answer. But if we're talking about the neighborhoods that I work in, man, we can see a swing of 5%, 10% even on value. I mean, if we're talking about $1 million home, we're talking about potentially $50,000 or $100,000 swing based on a staging. And that's real. And that goes back to creating I don't care what price point you're in. And I didn't throw that number out to seem like a big cheese because quite frankly, these numbers are on the small fish in the city that I live in. Okay. With that being said, it's just not an easy answer. Again, it just really isn't. Sometimes when we create, it's part of the plan. Again, we're just creating the excitement and the energy that we need for the right buyer. So if that means staging it a certain way, if that means painting the walls sometimes can really make a big difference. A museum white, an expansive white, like a whisper white is a beautiful white that makes everything appear larger. So we'll paint everything white. And then the buyer can kind of decide what it is for them. Here it is too. If you get nothing else out of this with getting your property prepared for market, I try to take myself out of it. I try to make everything as generic as possible and then bring in the jewelry and bring in and create the idea of what this property is for you, meaning whoever it is that's visiting. And that's really the big one for me. And that's always gone the furthest. Like if you're in an art class and you have a piece of clay in your hand, right? We used to get I think in one class, I got a block of clay and they said, okay, you got to make that into something. Everybody you can hand a block of clay to, everybody's going to grab it, right? But the moment you start putting ears on it or a nose on it or a mouth on it a certain way, it may not resonate with everybody. You're going to start losing people along the way. So how is it that we can capture everybody to earn you the most money, but they all see what they want to see? So that's kind of what I try to find, that sweet spot.
Thank you. Thank you for addressing that question. So let's talk about, you've sold the home or you're under contract.
All right. So
what happens next?
All right, here we go. So we've done everything the right way. We've inspected the property. We've put together our material facts list of all the deferred maintenance. We've staged. The house looks terrific. I got the music on. I've got the incense on. We're rocking and rolling. We got 9 offers. We ramped that up. We got a backup offer. We tightened the contingencies down to 2 weeks. We just had all the contingencies removed. You know that they're going to buy the house. I may have even done something tricky like said, hey, you got to release some of your earnest money deposit too. So that way you really know that they're not going anywhere because you got some of their cash, right? Then we turn around and we look this way because we know what the exit plan is. And hell, we might even not even be living in the house. Maybe it's staged, right? Now we're going to find the replacement home. There's a couple of different ways that we do that. We're looking off market. We're looking on the MLS. We're talking to other brokers, agents, adversaries of ours in the neighborhood that we work with regularly. And we're actively participating in helping you find your property. We're setting up marathon property tours. Maybe we see 15 homes on a weekend. We have our clipboard with us. We're walking through a lot of doors. Some of my clients are like, but Glenn, that's way too intense. Why would we want to look at so many homes so quickly? Well, one of the things you may want to do is you want to see as many properties as you can to understand footprints of properties, why architecture works certain ways, how you're going to use a space, how many bedrooms and baths you really need. But Glenn, we're never going to buy a spot under 1,500 square feet. There might be a house that's 1,400 square feet that feels like it's 2,500 square feet. We got to just get out there and look at everything, right? And that's what we'll do. We'll be out there. We'll be just looking and looking, and you're going to find it. It's going to make sense. And we're going to find maybe not your perfect home, but we're going to find the right property where we can create your home. That's something important to remember too. Sometimes clients will say to me, the monsters under the bed come out, and they're like, but what if we don't find our house? What if this doesn't happen? What if that doesn't happen? Right? That's not real, because what we do is we create and we design our lives the way that we want them to be. And we may not see the perfect 3-bedroom, 2-bath home that you want, but I guarantee you that we can find it. We can find the canvas, and we can find the opportunity to create that for you. And it doesn't have to be a lot of money. It doesn't have to be brand new everything later on. It can be broken down into phases over time, creating the spot that you want in the right area that's going to also appreciate a certain way. So again, this is all part of the plan. This is all part of the stuff that you're going to want to talk about with your agent at the very beginning, on the onset, before we even list your first property. Yeah. House hunting, moving quickly to find the right spot. So yes, so we are moving quickly like we just talked about. We're looking at a lot of different houses. Glenn, but we're moving so fast. What if we make a mistake? We're not going to make a mistake. The contracts are designed, at least in the state of California, the CAR forms, California Association of Realtors, have designed forms, just like nationally, the NAR, which we're all under the same guidelines, to protect the buyers. It's not really designed to protect the sellers. It's designed to protect the buyers. So we're going to hurry up. We're going to find the right spot. We're going to do the right thing and deposit our earnest money deposit. And then we're going to inspect. And inspecting is going to mean looking at the house, also looking at the neighborhood, the seller disclosure package, deferred maintenance of the property, and anything else that's important to you. Are there any nuisances in the neighborhood? Is there a school that's nearby that bothers you? Is there a whatever that just, you weren't aware of, right? You're going to be working with a seasoned professional that is going to be a neighborhood expert that is going to know what information is important to you. So they're going to make sure that you know what it is that you're buying. So that's how that goes.
Can you talk a little bit about some of the what's happening in such a tight market right now? I've heard a lot about people making offers with no contingencies, without inspections, things like that. Can you speak to that?
Sure. And again, when something like that is said as a broad stroke, it can become scary, right? In my experience, the offers that are coming in with no contingencies, these are people that understand what they're buying, right? They're not necessarily taking huge risks. They somehow know what it is that they're buying, and it's a calculated risk. As far as the all cash goes, sure. I mean, that's my experience. I mean, but I live in Los Angeles where there's a lot of money that's coming here. So we have a lot of tech money that's always that I deal with, a lot of tech money. I deal with a lot of health. We deal with a lot of textile, and there's just a lot of cash that's been coming in to the country to just be parked. And so I would say that probably 20% of our sales are cash sales.
And you talk about skipping an
Oh, but hold on.
inspection. Oh, sorry.
Let me just back up a second because that sounded scary at the end. However, that doesn't necessarily mean that a cash offer is going to beat out a loan. Again, working with a seasoned agent that knows how to make the necessary concessions for their clients and help buyers and sellers really get together and figure out what it is that both of them want, right? Sellers don't want a fair deal. Sellers want to get every penny out of the property that they possibly can, right? My buyers don't want a fair deal. They want to feel like they're winning. How do we get people together, right? How is it that people need to make the necessary concessions in their minds to feel as if they're getting a good deal? So that's where the secret is right there. It's like, what do I got to do to get out of bed in the morning and feel like I'm getting a good deal? What does that mean? Right? Once we can figure out what that is, it's a success.
Can you talk a little bit about the importance of inspection and why some buyers might want to skip or might consider skipping that? That was
sure.
That question there.
Okay. So for instance, if we know, if somebody's paying all cash and we know what the value roughly of the property is in its worst condition, right? If I know based on the city of whatever that I will need to get a municipally bonded contractor to come out to work on the street side of the city saddle if I need to replace the sewer line, and I know what this is and I know all the crap, if I know everything, right, of what's going down, why wouldn't I just write a non-contingent offer? You know what I mean? That's when things like that happen. When I have, clients that are educated and they know exactly what's going on sometimes. Other times, and why do they hire me then? They hire me to negotiate for them. That's why they hire me. They hire me to help them, not get too close to the edge. And sometimes people get very emotional. I'm not immune to it. When I'm buying and selling, I have one of my agent partners help me along the path because I can get too emotional sometimes too. I'm too close to the deal. Yeah. Closing on the new home, making an attractive offer, closing process, what to expect in this market. So yes, you want to work with an agent that's active. Number one, you want to work with somebody that is not a weekend agent, is not a friend of a friend who you're doing somebody else a favor. It's interesting in our industry. I don't want to get too off base here, but it's really interesting how real estate professionals, it's almost as if the market is doing us a favor by hiring us. It almost feels that way. For some reason, it almost feels as if we're like lucky when our clients hire us and, they're doing us a favor by giving us an opportunity. It's too easy to get a real estate license, at least in my state. You don't need a 4-year accredited degree. You don't need a higher education beyond that. You don't need a specialty certificate beyond a course study that you can get online for $300, I think. And it makes it challenging because then you get emotionally involved with your cousin who has a real estate license. She's also a wonderful accountant, but she has a real estate license and she helps the family out, right? You're potentially hurting yourself. You want to make sure that you're working with professionals that know what they're doing and have a plan that can help you execute and get whatever it is that you want and protect you along the way. So those are my thoughts on that.
Yeah, thank you. Let's talk a little bit about risk.
Oh boy, I love risk. Okay. In everything that we do in real estate, there's going to be a certain amount of risk. How having a team that you work with, again, I feel like I'm echoing myself, but having a team that does a fair amount of business that can share with you their sentiments of what's happening in the market with the risks today, with the transactions that we're doing today, there's value there. And that's what you want. That's what I want. I'm too busy doing real estate 7 days a week. This is what I do. I do this 7 days a week. It's what I'm good at. It's what I do. It's what I like to do. I'm actually doing something I love. But I'm not really good at, I'm thinking about buying an electric bike for one of our teammates to do something with, for marketing. And I'm not an expert at that. So I'm actually calling somebody that is, and I'm letting them do the whole thing for me. And like, we have marketing in our business, and I'm not really an expert at that either. So I just kind of listen to the experts around me, and my life seems to work out. When I resist it and when I try to know everything, it's when things start to go sideways. So anyhow, yeah, risk. Let me finish risk up. So with buying and selling, what is the risk today? Yes, there is going to be a risk today. Will my home be worth more tomorrow? Maybe. Who knows? What we're doing is we're looking at historically what's been happening in the marketplace. How are we lending money now? Where are the trends going? What's happened with the pandemic has been unprecedented, but it's been I can't believe it. Like, we've literally been running since April of 2020 in the real estate market. It's just been going absolutely bananas, and nobody knows what's happening or when it's going to necessarily stop. Is there risk in that? Some clients were putting their property on market next week. They've been on the fence for 3 years about selling. And I had a conversation last night. Man, oh man, we timed this one perfectly. They're taking credit for it. And of course, I was along for the ride to say, hell yeah, you did. But really, a lot of it's luck. They just didn't sell for whatever reason a few years ago, and now they're selling. The risk is understanding where you are, being aware of what's happening in the marketplace. And the risk is working with somebody that doesn't really know what's going on. That's your real risk. Are you hiring the right person? So do your homework and make sure that the person that you hire, the team that you put together, is really worth their salt and they know what they're doing. I like people to tell me the truth. I don't like people to make me feel good. I like people to tell me the truth.
Let's go ahead and go into some questions here. You talked a little bit about positioning a home correctly. Can you explain exactly what that verbiage means, maybe to people who aren't in the real estate world? What does it mean to position a home correctly when you put it on the market?
All right. So in the simplest terms, whatever you think whatever you feel your house is worth, as long as what you feel your house is worth is in line with reality, position it a little bit less than that. Put it on the market for a little less than that to create the excitement, to get the eyeballs on it, to get the people there, to get multiple offers, to get people competing for your home. That's what I meant by that. Okay. If you want to test the market, that's the worst idea you could possibly have. Don't test the market. If you're serious about selling your home, position it a little under what fair market value is. Assuming you're living in a market that has that kind of demand. If you're in a market that the typical days on market is 200 days, then there's a different strategy on how we would approach the market. So again, this is a little bit, take what I'm saying with a grain of salt. I'm an expert in real estate in Los Angeles. That's my expertise. Nationally, do I understand what's going on? Of course. Do I follow the trends and the patterns? Of course. Am I connected with mortgage brokers, lenders, referral agent, and team members all over the nation? Of course I am. But 7 days a week, I'm selling real estate here. So my plan with coming on market is for here. But generally speaking, it works anywhere.
Thank you. I have a kind of a specific question here. I'm just going to throw it at you, see what you can do here.
Sure.
Do you have any advice for buying a house all cash from a buyer who does not want to use a real estate agent?
Yeah, totally. First, figure out why. Why? What's the big why? Why are we doing what we're doing? Why don't you want a real estate agent? Oh, because, they don't do anything. And, we're just paying them for doing nothing. Oh, okay, cool. So who's going to do the contract? How's escrow going to work out? Who's going to be liable? Who carries the insurances if somebody doesn't, gets, if you want to sue each other. So just figure out what exactly is going on and who the players are, what the risks are, and then you're good. You don't need a real estate agent or a broker. You need an agreement. You need four corners of an agreement. What does an agreement mean? The contract has a start date and an end date, right? And then there's parameters within the contract and contingencies that need to be met and something for something, right? That's what a contract is. That's all you need. And then you need a neutral third party, like an escrow typically, just because there's a lot of money involved, right? So you maybe want to hire an escrow company. You may want title insurance to run title to protect you. I mean, if somebody can buy a property from somebody and if there's a lien on the property that they're unaware of, the lien rolls with the property, not with the individual, right? So there's a lot of trapdoors. Systems. What is it that you're buying? Are you inspecting this property? Do you understand what systems cost? HVAC, are we running pressed air through the home? Is it an older home? Is it so old that it has asbestos? Does it have room in the walls for ducting? What's going on with the property, right? And there's a lot to think about when you're buying and selling real estate. So if you don't know what you're doing, don't do it without a professional, right? If I break my leg, I'm going to go see my doctor probably. I'm not going to fumble around and try to figure it out. So again, this goes back to what I kind of touched on earlier with how working with a real estate agent, some people feel like they're doing me a favor by hiring me, right? So it's interesting that that guy that doesn't want to work with a broker or an agent to sell his home doesn't see any value in my profession for whatever reason. It's fascinating. So you can hire an attorney, hire a real estate attorney. You can negotiate a flat fee to be on both sides of the transaction, to assume the risk and liability. And maybe your attorney has a trust account and can act as escrow in your estate, depending on what the rules are. So there's a lot of things that you can look at. You just want to make sure that you're protected. Title, insurance, neutral third parties involved, and a fully executed agreement. You're all set.
All right, I got another question here. What features of a house can a homeowner upgrade to add the most value to the home?
Well, that's probably regional too. Here where I live, if we add a paintball room with indoor swimming pools and a big ball machine, a big bubble machine. I'm just kidding. Okay, so yeah, that's probably going to be regional as far as the updates go. But where we see the least amount of money is with a swimming pool, believe it or not, here in Los Angeles. That's one of those upgrades that people don't necessarily always want. They don't want the maintenance monthly, and they may or may not use it. It's just more of a risk for small pets and for children. So that would be a question for your local agent that you're going to partner and team up with. And this is a good point too, just to touch back on the team. Put a team together. Have a trusted realtor. If do you clean your teeth? If you clean your teeth, if you've ever had a cavity and you've ever gone to the dentist and you had a good experience with your dentist, do you go back there, or do you drive yourself bananas every time you want to clean your teeth and you try to find a new one, right? Find a good agent that you like and keep them, or her or they, and keep them. And this is the kind of stuff you talk with about. They come over, you talk about some additions you want to do. You talk about things you want to do, change the yard. What should we do? Look how much Zillow says my house is worth. Is this real? Oh my goodness. Like, we're thinking about, whatever. That's, you keep a good broker in your life, and you be loyal to that broker. That broker will probably walk to the ends of the earth for you.
Can you talk a little bit about Zillow? And that's kind of those online platforms.
Yeah.
And valuations just that you get on your cell phone.
Yeah, no. Okay. So here it is. I don't care. I don't have any biases either way with Zillow. I think it's great. Anybody that can figure out how to earn money. Anyway, I'm going way off track here, but I don't care if Zillow wants to be a mortgage brokerage now. I don't mind the fact that they might become an appraisal company. Hell, I don't mind if they want to become an ice cream company. I think it's fine. What I don't like is this estimate. And I'll tell you why, because it's wrong and it hurts people. It's not right. Like a broken clock, every once in a while, and we know this is true, they knock it right out of the park. They really do. But most of the time it's wrong. Doesn't know what's going on inside your home. It doesn't know the improvements that you have. It's based on an algorithm from square footage of the lot and bedroom and bath count on public record. So it's very confusing to, a property owner of what's really going down and how Zillow got there. So I don't trust this estimate. It's fun. It's fun. These estimates are fun. And sometimes they're right. Sometimes they're close. Sometimes they're way off base. Have fun with it. If you want to talk seriously, get the agent that you trust over your house and figure out what it is that you have. Look at comparable sales of things that have just sold, right? I don't want to look at, John's house right down the street that sold 3 years ago in a different market. And by the way, his house is twice your size with a better kitchen, right? We're going to look at what's happening right now today. And that's how you get there.
All right, I got another question rolling in here. Could you give us some advice for selling and buying houses at the same time via a 1031 exchange?
Totally. That's my dance floor. I'm dancing on that one all day, every day. I just did two 1031 exchanges that closed like a week and a half ago. Well, I don't know. I guess it's a loaded question. Are you in a 1031 exchange? I imagine you're not occupying any of the units. So that would be easy peasy. What I do in my business is I look at gross rent multiplier or the capitalization rate, the rate of return on the investment. So if it's a 1031 exchange, what have you been doing with the property? Have you been depreciating the asset for a certain amount of time? Have you really just sucked every ounce of blood out of this property and now it's time for us to turn it over into something new so you don't get hit with capital gains taxes? Is that the game plan? Because if that's the plan, I got the plan. We just find you the next property. We find you something that's either the same, like for like. Maybe you have some extra money. Maybe you're going to put some more money down into it, right? What's this new profile? Is it a multifamily? How are we spreading the risk around? Do you have residential on top? Is it a commercial storefront on the bottom? Is it all office space now? Do you want to do a triple net lease so you're not even paying property taxes? We'll get somebody else to pay those for you too. Why are we parking the money? What's the long game here? Like, what are we doing? Why did you call me, right? So we figure out all this stuff in the beginning and then we put the roadmap together. Yeah. It's easy peasy.
All right. Well, I have time for about one more question here, and I want to invite our attendees that if we haven't gotten to your question, please go ahead and leave your phone number and we'll make sure.
You know what this is?
Someone
Let me say this. This is really interesting. Really interesting. Really interesting. I'm on my desk on most days now. I have a team of agents. A lot of them are out in the field. So I'm not as distracted as I used to be with a lot of different things moving on with opening doors and running around and looking at addresses. But it's given me this other opportunity to really look at my clients when they call me. A lot of people, including myself, I'm not immune to this. I just do things without really thinking about what it is that I'm doing sometimes and what it is that I really want. And that's where I'm really helping now, is figuring out what it is that we want to do. And what it really, like with the 1031 exchange, case in point, one of the ones that I just closed on, two of the people were licensed appraisers, believe it or not, that own this property. And so I had to really be on my game for that listing appointment. You know what I mean? So I go in there and I figured out what needed to get done. One person wanted to sell, one person didn't want to sell, but then the person that didn't want to sell, she lives out of the area. She had a lot of stressors, life stressors. The stakes were high for family and other problems that she was dealing with. And she had sent me a text and said, Glenn, maybe I should just cash out. Yeah, maybe she said, is that a good idea? And I said, it's a great idea. You've done really well here. You've done really well, but I'm showing you the plan on where we can double that money in 3 years. And this is real. And this is what's happening right here in this neighborhood where we've identified this perfect 3-unit property for you. This is what I would do. And here's how I would do it. And it's having those conversations with my clients, getting real with them, and then having them go, but what if this doesn't work out? Well, I'm not going to let you fail. This is where I live. This is where the property is. This is where our team is. This is what we're going to do. And this is how we're going to help you along. And this is how you should look at it. This is how I would look at it. What do you want to do? Right. And she bought the property and she's so stoked. And it's a new thing. She's got a better cap rate. She's going to make out like a bandit in this property that I negotiated 2 of the units to be delivered vacant, cash for keys. The 3rd unit, they're probably not going to be there for too much longer. She's got like 17 minutes to live. So it's going to be a great property. That was a joke at the end. It's going to be a great property for this client. And it's really just, what do we want here? Do we want a cash rate? Do we want a capitalization rate for cash on hand today? Or are we more interested in the appreciated value of where it's going? Or maybe it's somewhere in the middle, right? So it's these questions.
Well, I have one more question here. What is the biggest mistake that you see people making, and maybe the biggest mistake to avoid? And that
probably own your part in everything that you do every day. And if you can think about that, you'll be happy. No, okay. All jokes aside, the biggest mistake, not allowing experts to be experts. In my experience, in my personal experience in business and just in real estating and in business and just in life, is trust, allowing the process to happen, doing my homework in the beginning, and then putting it on cruise control a little bit and just trusting that I've made the right decision with my team. And then, you can always adjust, you can always recalibrate, but just creating that space in my mind to just allow life to kind of happen.
Well, thank you so much, Glenn. We really appreciate your expertise. We really appreciate the questions. Once again, during our outro, if you have another question, go ahead and leave it in the chat, and we're happy to have someone reach out to you. On behalf of Advice Chaser, thanks to the organizations that have made this presentation possible today. And here at Advice Chaser, we're all about helping you find a financial advisor who's a great fit for you, your life, and your financial questions. Our matching service is free to you, and every one of our advisor partners has committed to offer a free initial consultation to anyone we introduce them to. Find out more by going to advicechaser.com and clicking on the link to find an advisor. Once again, thank you, Glenn. And from Advice Chaser, thanks so much for our attendees for attending, and we'll see you at another webinar very soon.
Thanks for having me. Thanks so much.
Bye, everyone. Thank you, Glenn.